Welcome to Cutting Edge Web Content Development, the podcast where we delve into the world of CMS systems and their crucial role in website and web content development. In each episode, we'll explore the reasons why founders, CEOs, CTOs, and CMOs of web content development companies need CMS systems to thrive in the digital landscape. Get ready to uncover the secrets behind successful website management, content creation, and seamless user experiences. Here's your host, Jonathan Ames.
Welcome to Cutting Edge Web Content Development, a podcast by Butter CMS. Today, we're delighted to welcome Greg Jameson, a pioneer in the intersection of AI and e-commerce. Welcome, Greg.
Thanks, Jonathan. I am excited to be here with you today.
I am too. You have a very distinct history that goes back a long ways. Can you give us kind of a summary of some of the projects and companies you worked on so people understand a bit about your background?
Yeah, I was actually putting together a presentation this morning, came across a couple of old photographs that reminded me of some of the things that I had done early on in my career. And I actually started my career by developing computer-aided design software and was basically being a gearhead, writing software and selling it around the world. That ended up morphing into what I'm doing today through the advent of the internet, where today I'm working, still developing software, more or less, not as a hardcore programmer like I was in the early years, but still working with software, but today working specifically with artificial intelligence and e-commerce and helping people to sell more of their products and services online.
Yeah, that was the part of your background and the topic that is really of interest. I mean, e-commerce is a big area that we work in at Butter. And so a lot of our clients have been interested in AI. And so the question is not, is AI going to have an impact, but what's the best way to make AI positively impact your work in e-commerce? And so give us an idea of kind of how you see AI and e-commerce working together well.
There's actually a whole bunch of ways that the two intersect. And I think that e-commerce is something that I started doing, like I said, back at the beginning of the internet. And it really can be anything where you're kind of creating this transaction online. So it might be that you're selling a physical product, which is where I started, selling physical products and working with people that were wholesalers selling to retailers. But it might also be selling services, and somebody contracts you for a service over the internet. The transaction takes place online, and so that's e-commerce as well, which when we talk about AI and how it impacts all of that, it can be simple things like writing product descriptions. If you're selling physical products, AI is actually very good at generating product descriptions, whereas often people that have online stores are not very good at that. And it can also involve things like putting a chatbot on your website to help handle customer service. The chatbots can be trained to really talk specifically about the things that are on your website rather than just generic things. So if you're selling a widget of some kind, a person could be asking a question about that widget, and the AI would be able to respond to it without having to have a human be there monitoring the website all the time. Of course, it can do other things on the back end too, in terms of inventory control and order management and so forth. So, like I said, there's lots of different ways that AI can really impact an e-commerce website.
Interesting. Yeah, I know one of the big challenges with chatbots in the past was that somebody had to create all the content for those chatbots to give to a customer and think of all the possible questions. So that was a huge amount of work to basically create the content necessary for that. So any way to automate that, certainly very helpful in opening up maybe chatbots to companies that otherwise simply didn't have the resources to implement one. But your first mention about writing product descriptions, that's very interesting. Have you had some experiences with clients or in your past where you've used AI to write product descriptions and found that they were successful, even though they were written by AI?
Yeah. In fact, I'm working with a company right now. It's a jewelry company. They're a wholesaler. And being a wholesaler, I think they kind of thought, I don't really need to have product descriptions on my website because the retailers are going to go there and they can see that this is what they want and they're going to buy it. But the problem with that line of thinking is that may be true for the retailers that they're purchasing from, but this particular company also wanted to be showing up in the search engines. Well, the search engines rely on product descriptions for everything that you want. If, let's say, you're buying a heart-shaped necklace, if you don't have a product description that talks about a heart-shaped necklace on your product page, then Google's simply going to ignore you because it has no idea what that page is about. So they have about 2,000 SKUs on their website. And like I said, no product descriptions. So by uploading images of each of their products in there along with the product name, then we were able to generate AI descriptions of those products that were pretty accurate. And it's interesting how the AI can actually look at an image and determine what that image is and write a product description from it, but it's super powerful. So they've got a new version of their website coming out that's going to be loaded with product descriptions. They were all written by AI. They were, in fact, all reviewed by humans to make sure that the descriptions were good, but I think it's going to make a huge difference for them in terms of their SEO.
So they're using AI here to generate product descriptions for an SEO purpose, and they're ensuring the accuracy of it by having humans go in and check them. But because a human doesn't actually have to write it, it's a huge efficiency boost. So it happens much faster.
Yep.
Excellent. I think most of us think of AI in terms of benefit of efficiency, that we can do something faster with AI. Are there other strategic ways to use AI in e-commerce besides just to do things faster?
Yeah, one of the things, I think that not only can you do things faster, but I think that often people are sitting there thinking that AI, like I said, it's about efficiency and kind of how many people can we replace? And it really isn't about that. But I think that what people need to think of is, how can I do things that I've never done before? And AI is really good at that. One of the things perhaps is helping you develop new products. So the products might be simple things that, hey, I want to create some apparel with an AI-generated design on the shirt. That's a fairly simple thing. But this same jewelry company now is starting to design their own products as well as selling products that they've imported from overseas. And you can use AI to do that. Create a design of a pendant that is showing two mermaids embracing each other, whatever it might be. It will generate that design, and then you can use that design and convert it into a 3D model that can then be manufactured.
Very interesting.
And that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg. It's really possible for you to use your imagination, figure out, hey, what kinds of products can AI really help me develop and expand my marketplace?
So we've determined that AI can help in e-commerce for efficiency. It can help in maybe ideation, creation of products. What are the biggest challenges then that you'd face as an e-commerce business integrating AI into your operations?
I think that most technologies, when they first come out, that people are intimidated by them and they aren't sure how to get started with them. So that fear factor of getting started is a big thing. And it's kind of an interesting thing because on the one hand, you have this fear of missing out. And on the other hand, you have this fear of, hey, I'm not sure how to do this and how to really make it be the most effective for me. But it's also kind of like any technology that you need to do it. And the best way to do it is to just simply start doing it, playing with it, experimenting with it. I found it interesting that when the internet first started, it took about 7 years before a lot of companies actually even started building their own websites because they were afraid to. They were like, hey, this is going to impact me. And if I mess it up, I'm going to have this negative connotation out there. And And so they simply didn't do it because they were afraid of doing it. With AI, generative AI, in terms of doing the kinds of things that we see with ChatGPT, creating text, creating images, and so forth, is about a year and a half old now. AI obviously is significantly older than that, but from when ChatGPT came out till we're recording this, it's been about a year and a half. You don't want to wait that 7 years that we saw people waiting at the start of the internet, because 7 years from now, if you haven't already incorporated AI into your daily life, you are going to be so far behind, you're not going to be able to catch up.
No, that's a good point. Do you think that there's a way that people can overcome that fear? Maybe it's not them, maybe it's others internally in their organization, to trying out AI? And how do you first try it? What would be your recommendation as a first step for somebody wanting to get in there and not wait?
I sell courses and programs on teaching people how to use AI. So I don't want to turn this into a promotional thing by any means, but that is certainly a route that somebody could take, is join a program, learn how to really implement it, especially if it's a program specifically tailored to your business. Then your instructor can probably help you along those particular lines. The big thing that I would say is start reading blog articles, start looking at AI-based videos on YouTube, do a little bit of self-learning, and most importantly, just experiment. There's a ton of good tools out there. And I remember when fax machines first came out, and I kept looking at what fax machine should I get? And finally, one of the salesmen was like, it doesn't matter. Just get one and start using it. And I think the same thing is true with AI. It doesn't matter if you're using ChatGPT, if you're using Perplexity, if you're using Google, anything else. Just get out there and start playing with them, use them, and see what kind of results you get. If you don't get the kind of results that you want out of one, then go try another one. Most of them, they're free to try. And even if you're paying a monthly subscription, like for the ChatGPT Plus, it's only $20 a month. It's cheap. Try it for a month and get to learn it.
So those of you who are pretty young out there, a fax machine is something that allowed you to send printouts via the telephone. It was something that the older crew of us remember fondly, but yeah. And doctors probably still use. I think they're the last holdouts for fax machines. All these medical offices, you have to send everything via fax. It's kind of funny. All right, so let's talk about a couple of these tools then. So what are some specific AI tools or features that you found effective in building e-commerce performance?
Well, what I've ended up doing is I've actually created a number of tools myself. Most of the tools that you see out there that are kind of custom tools are using what's called an API, or application programming interface, that when you sign up for their services, they give you access to this API. And so that's what I've been doing, utilizing the API from OpenAI, who is the creator of ChatGPT, as well as Claude. Those two seem to have really strong APIs for people that are developing specific tools. But ChatGPT also has a feature for Plus users where you can create your own GPTs, they call them. And if you are paying that $20 a month, you actually have access to not only your own GPTs that you create, but this library of thousands and thousands of GPTs that other people have written. And some of those are very good tools. I've got one of those, for example, that I use for rewriting the homepage of people's websites. It astonishes me today still how many people, you go out there and you look at the homepage of their website and it says, we do this and we do this and our processes allow you to do this. And it's all, we, my, our stuff. And I'm always telling people, that's what your about page is for. The homepage of your website is for your customer. And it should read, you can do this. Your situation is this. It's all about them and what you can do for them. So I have this custom GPT out there on ChatGPT that will allow you to input your homepage web copy and turn it into customer-centric copy that is all about your customer instead of being about you. And that's been a really popular thing that people eat up on when they see it. They're like, wow, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you bring up a good point here. So, all right, there's a lot of people are afraid of AI in the sense that they feel like, well, I'm not a prompt engineer. I don't know how to write the right question, because if you're new to it, it may be a little difficult to get good output the first few times you try prompting an AI. But there are a lot of programs that have integrated ChatGPT or other large language models into their software. They're using an API connection like you're talking about. And then they have pre-established prompts that you can start with. And so I found those are really easy. You can look at what these pre-built prompts are, try them out, and then from there you can kind of learn, all right, so this is how a good prompt is written. And then you could try going direct to the source and then kind of modifying that or making your own new one, having seen what somebody else has done. But yeah, don't be afraid to get out there and try it, at least with one that's been pre-built, and see what you can get, because I think you'd be really surprised as someone who's written a good prompt, what you can get out. And that's obviously you've got here a prompt that's going to rewrite this homepage text to be customer-centric instead of company-centric. So
Yeah.
Great. I'm sure a little bit of work went into making that prompt.
And one of the things that as you're using AI, that if you kind of understand this, it makes utilizing it a whole lot easier. And that is that it probably is not going to give you the output that you want on the first try. But the great thing is that it is a chatbot. If it doesn't give you the answer that you want, you say, hey, this isn't quite what I had in mind. Can you change this? And just as an example of that, I've been using AI to write programming code for me. And I can never get it on the first try. I want to write a piece of code that's going to do this. And it will come back and it'll say, sure, here's what you're looking for. And I try it and I'm like, no, that's not what I had in mind. Change this. And it will often take me 20, 30 iterations to get what I'm looking for out of the thing. And sometimes it gets really far off track and it's like going down this rabbit hole of, I don't want to go that direction. And so what I'll do is I'll just take the code that is generated so far and start an entirely new session, or even go into a different AI program and say, hey, here's the code I've got. I want it to do this instead. And simply by starting over, it will often produce the results that I'm looking for. So
fresh perspective.
It's obvious when you're writing code, but I think that's true even if you're writing a blog post or trying to generate an image or anything else. And the really cool thing, once you do get it exactly the way you want, like I've got this piece of code that like I said, it took me about 40 iterations to finally get it the way that I wanted. And then I started a new session up and I said, hey, I've got this piece of code. I'm going to feed it to you. And I want you to write a prompt for me that would generate this code in one session instead of 40 sessions.
Wow,
and
good thinking.
That's a way that you can really start to build up a bunch of prompts that are going to work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea as far as taking a partially finished or a finished result and then feeding that back in. It's a great idea. Well, let's say somebody takes your advice. They start testing maybe with product descriptions, put those product descriptions into their e-commerce site. What are the key performance indicators you're going to look for to see, did this really improve the results that I have?
Well, certainly take a look at your Google Analytics or whatever analytics program you're using. If you have written a product description, and let's say that you're selling a trophy, and you've got this product description where you're saying, this is a brass-plated trophy on a walnut base. And you've put those keywords into your descriptions, then you go back and you look at your analytics and you see how many people have actually searched for a brass-plated trophy with a walnut base and ended up landing on your page. So that's probably the simplest thing to look at is, are you in fact getting more traffic as a result of having done this? What really matters to more people, and I totally get it, is, am I making more sales? And that's actually a really funny thing about websites in general, is that they're concerned so much about SEO. How do I get on the homepage of Google, and how many clicks am I getting and stuff? And the reality is how many sales are you getting? The rest of the stuff is kind of irrelevant.
Yes. Now, that is one of the major advantages of e-commerce over other websites is you can tell very quickly there's an instant tie between a tactic you try and a sale. And it either generates a sale or it doesn't generate a sale. And it's usually a quick sales cycle. So yeah, looking at traffic, looking at sales, both easy ways to figure out, did this AI-generated product description improve my results or not? So what about other areas besides, say, traffic and sales? Customer data. Is there a way the AI can help with that in an e-commerce business?
It absolutely can. Yeah, you can track your customers, see how long they've stayed on your website, how long they've engaged with you. If they're getting their questions answered, you might run a survey or something and say, hey, are you getting the results out of this that you expected? So there's absolutely anything that typically involves being able to programmatically look at your data, then I think that there's going to be an AI tool out there that can help you with that.
Yeah. I know I've heard like customer success departments using AI to go through their chat transcripts and simply give summaries of what are the most common questions, what is the sentiment average now versus in the past, things like that, where it's able to quickly take a large amount of disparate data and then give you these quick summaries. Yeah, are there other uses you've heard of in customer data?
I think repeat customers in particular is something that's pretty easy to track, and an AI can help you analyze that as well. How many repeat customers am I getting, and what's their average order value?
Or what are the products that when somebody buys it, I have a higher percentage chance that they're going to be a repeat customer? Because if you know that, then you use it as a loss leader and you actually spend more on advertising that because you know there's a high percentage chance you're going to get a repeat customer out of that, and the lifetime value will cover that.
And what those repeat customers, like you said, are most likely to buy. So you've already sold them this brass trophy with a walnut base. Those repeat customers maybe are more likely to buy a bunch of first, second, third place ribbons for another event or whatever it might be. But you're able to analyze that data saying, hey, past customers who have bought this have bought this. And so that's the kind of thing that I need to be promoting to people.
So where are some of the places, if somebody wanted to start plugging into and learning a little bit about AI in e-commerce, where are some of the places they might go to find that? I mean, where do you find your inspiration and your ideas?
Quite honestly, I listen to a bunch of podcasts, and I specifically search for podcasts that have AI and e-commerce in their titles per episode. Usually there's not a lot of them where the whole entire podcast week after week is about that. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. I subscribe to a lot of newsletters myself. I write a weekly newsletter where I'm going out and researching topics all the time. So I'm trying to keep up on what's going on in the world. And that's really what I would recommend. As I mentioned earlier, there are people out there like myself that are teaching people how to do this. I think it's a great way to get started. If for no other reason than it really opens up your eyes to all the different kinds of possibilities that are out there. As an example, we talked about how services can also be an e-commerce business. There's so many people out there that are selling services that they may not even recognize that they need to have e-commerce for their service-based business, and two, how AI can help them sell those services or even productize those services.
Yeah. I actually had a guest on a few months ago who's talking about using successfully e-commerce to help all these service-based companies, like especially plumbers or mechanics or things where people are going to the internet. They're doing a search like, quick, I need this person who does this. I need a roofer. I need a plumber. I need a mechanic. And how people really love the fact that they could schedule a appointment right on the site, buy it, and like, now it's good. I know that person's going to show up. I've paid some kind of down payment money for them to come out and quickly get to this project, which I need. It's kind of very timely. And he said they had really good results with that. So yeah, there's definitely even services sites, e-commerce could be great for that.
And then you want to make sure that it really is tied to their calendar and they do show up.
Yeah, obviously you got to deliver on that product. Otherwise, you're going to be in some deep trouble. Let me ask you a question, Greg, about over the course of your career. What are some things that you've learned that if you could go back in a time machine, you would tell yourself at the beginning of your career, things that you know now that you didn't know then?
I guess the biggest thing from a business point of view is that things are always going to change. And one of the things that I did early on is I had a company and I built it up and I sold it. And to this day, I'm like, I'm not sure why I did that. I know things are going to change. I could have evolved that company into going into a different direction instead of selling it. And along those same lines, I think that this is more of an economics thing than anything, I guess, is that don't always be dumping all of your money and all of your friends' and parents' money and everything else into your company. Put some aside because you're going to have lots of new ideas. Ideas are easy. You probably do this to generate hundreds of ideas a day. You don't have time to implement all your ideas. Ideas are easy. So you're going to have lots of new ideas in the future. And if you've got a little bit of a bankroll there that you set aside to experiment with ideas, I think that's really important. I love one of the things that Google does where they tell their employees that, hey, 10% of your time is supposed to be for basically playing with new ideas.
Yeah. How many companies do that? Not very many.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about how people can connect with you. You have a company right now, Web Stores Limited. Tell us where people can find it, kind of what it does, and how people can connect with you.
Okay. So webstoreslimited.com is one of the easiest ways to get a hold of me. There is a contact page on there. We don't try to hide email addresses or phone numbers or anything else like some people do on their websites. So there's actually a contact form. You can fill that out and be happy to talk with people individually. Like I said, I teach a course. Sign up for my weekly blog or sign up. You get the same information if you sign up for my newsletter on LinkedIn. It comes out every week. And I always have information on there about new courses that are coming up and places where people can either join me for a webinar, join me on upcoming podcasts, live presentations, and so forth. So pretty easy to get a hold of.
Excellent. Well, just maybe tell us one of the projects you worked on with web stores and kind of how AI played into that.
Well, one of the recent projects that I did, I actually created a new AI tool specifically for travel advisors. And so this is something where I use the APIs that we talked about, and you don't need to be a prompt engineer to figure out how to use this. All you have to do is fill in the blanks for a couple of things. There's like 30 or so tools in there that do things from planning itineraries to recommending offshore activities if you're going on a cruise, whatever the tools are. I worked with a travel agent to do this. So we built this tool out that now other travel agents can use, and that kind of a custom tool for a specific niche or industry, I think, is something that can be really helpful for a lot of people.
Oh, wow. Is that something that's online now that people could see?
It
Or is it
is.
still in production?
Nope, it's online. It's called Travel AI Genius, and I can give you the exact link to it if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. We'll put it in the show description as well. Well, excellent. Greg, really appreciate your insights on AI and e-commerce. You really opened up my mind to some different ways of thinking about using AI other than just efficiency. And yeah, for those of you out there listening, connect with Greg, learn more about AI, especially his newsletter. And yeah, really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me. This has been fun.
Thank you so much.
Cutting Edge Web Content Development is brought to you by Butter CMS. To find out how you can build better with Butter, stop wasting dev time, and free your marketers from your legacy CMS, visit buttercms.com. Also, make sure to search for Cutting Edge Web Content Development in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Butter CMS, thank you for listening.